mentioned that you were sitting in traffic and that's where the idea of the book came from. But where did the inspiration for the storyline, the characters, especially a character like Ajoke, she's such a strong-willed character. Where did the inspiration come from?
Yeah, one of the things when I even thought about writing a book was I wanted something with the culture. I wanted something intimate because, we don't have a lot of books that allows you to, or that we read that you can really express intimacy. So I wanted something, with that line. I wanted a love story, but at the same time, pick an aspect of the culture that I felt was really important to me. So when I look at the master, the maid relationship, and the fact that most of us grew up having those helps. We had maids and house boys and house girls. We never really thought about how they felt. Like, it never even occurred to us that, okay, maybe this is what kind of food they like, or what kind of school, or what kind of subjects we just lived life and never really thought about them. So I wanted something different that meant that was meaningful and was gripping, and that would resonate with, who understood the culture.
Right. You wanted people to see the humanity in those who often blended in the background.
Yes.
You just never really thought of.
They were just there. Like, we just didn't even think about them. And we just took them for granted. But they had feelings.
Of course. Is there anyone in your life that you would say, draws parallels to Ajoke? Is there anyone in your past that gave you the idea of someone like Ajoke, or even Wale, or anyone?
No. It just occurred to me while I was thinking about the story that, a child who, like Wale, who grew up in such affluence, could fall in love with anybody. He could fall in love with, somebody insignificant. And that was why I put them together to win the story.
I think that, I'd personally say, I think that was a really good idea because it wasn't cliche. You don't really see those type of stories. Usually when you see something about a house help and a master, it's usually a grown man a young girl. But this love story is something that we don't really see much of, and it's more realistic because they're age mates. So one thing that I would want to know is, even though the people in the book are pretty young, how would you say that this book, or who would you say that this book is best for? Is it for young adults? Is it for adults? Or is it for everybody?
This book, I would say, is for adults. And the only reason I would say it's for adults is because of the explicit content in the book, the sexual content in the book.
Right.
To me, is not for even for a young adult. So I would say it's for an adult. Now, the beauty of it is that I just, from feedback and from talking to people who have written me or have texted me or have, emailed me, they've said, we like the story. We really want our children, the younger children, to read it. So that gave me the inkling to say, you know what, I will maybe build up on the book and, come up with never-ending chances without the explicit content, without the sexual content, is what I'm leaning towards. I haven't done it yet, but I'm leaning towards it just so that other adults can read the story, so that, the younger folks can read the story. Even teenagers can read the story to see, this can really happen.
Of course, because it's at its core, it's a story for everyone.
Yes.
The other stuff is extra, but at its core, it's a story for everyone that anyone can resonate with.
And they can learn the culture, even those that have not been home. There's a lot of Nigerian Americans who haven't been home, a lot of just anywhere in the world, really, who don't know the culture, and they can learn the culture from this story.
Of course. When you started writing Endless Chances, was there a certain frame of mind that you needed to be in? Because of course the story is, as you said, it's about the culture. It's about, you know, things that happen back at home that people don't necessarily talk about or think of. Was there certain research that you had to do? Was there certain people that you had to talk to? Did you have to travel back home to really capture the essence of the story?
One of the things, like, luckily for me, when I was writing Endless Chances, I traveled a lot. So my mom was in Nigeria, so I would go visit her like every 2-3 months,
Right.
see how she's doing. And you know, I mean, I'm especially like with Mama Salah's scene, you know, and I'm driving in traffic, or you know, I'm being driven in traffic, and I'm looking at the shops and you know, that comes to mind. I'm like, okay, you know,
Jogs memory.
yes, it just says, okay, I can, this could be, Ajoke could possibly work here. So I have to say that really influenced me going home and just being on the streets, you know, seeing the hawkers again, you know, just kind of help bring some of the perspectives of the story together. So that definitely was a good thing to travel home at that time.
So traveling home definitely helped you to get a better essence of what you wanted this story to be and who you wanted Ajoke to be. If we include, you know, you traveling home and, you know, the entire process, how long would you say it took you to write this book, and you know, what challenges came up along the way of you trying to get this book written and published and edited and out to the world?
Yeah, it's the easiest part. People think writing the book. The easiest part of writing a book is the writing the book, coming up with the frame of the book. The more challenging part is editing the book, content editing the book, and making sure that chapter 1 should be chapter 1. I took out a lot of aspects, you know, a lot of things of the book, because sometimes you get carried away. You get carried away with the characters. I personally got carried away with Tayo Folarin because I thought she was kind of unique. She was different, you know, and I wrote a whole chapter on Tayo Folarin, but I said to myself, it's taken away from my main character, who's Ajoke. So that whole chapter was removed from the book. So I started out 2019. I promised myself the beginning of 2019 that I would write the book in 2019. Fast forward till December, and I'm like, oh my God, I have only written half of the book. How am I going to meet this goal? So I just binged write. I would just stay up and I would write and write. And luckily we took a vacation that year to Dubai. It's a long trip, you know, it's like 14 hours. So I wrote all the way on the plane, even though my son was having an allergic reaction in the plane. I'm like, here, luckily we had Benadryl here, you know. So I binged all the way there. I couldn't sleep because of the time difference. So I wrote every night. I just wrote, and I wrote all the way back. And I could barely put the period at the end of the end, you know, at the end of the book. So it took literally 3.5 years from writing to publishing the book. Wow. But a lot of it was because I put it down. I wasn't fully consistent. If I have to look at how consistent I was, I would say 2 years. 2 years. The challenges of writing a book, you need a good editor. And I still feel like you personally have to edit. You ultimately have to edit the book. You need a good editor, you need a good proofreader, but you ultimately are that person that will do it, because it never really comes out the same when somebody else does it, to me. So.
No, that completely makes sense, because it's your word, it's your art, you know, you're the creative. You don't want, you know, the essence to be taken out of it, and then suddenly it's like, I don't recognize this body of work.
Yeah.
So
you see it when you write the book and you edit the book, content and line editing, you see it. So you do get help, but you have to go back and clean that help that you got.
Of course,
already.
Completely makes sense. As somebody who wears so many hats, as we said before, pharmacist, wife, mother, and you said this whole process, you know, did take some years. How do you feel like having your family help support you during the writing process and the publishing process?
Yeah, the with the writing process, in terms of like, I have to give kudos to my husband, because so many nights I just won't go to bed because I'm like sitting down, I'm editing or I'm writing, and he'll be like, "Oh God, you're still doing this book," or "Oh, you didn't sleep," or things like that. He would say. So even with when I launched the book initially, he's like, "No, you have to give me credit because I was the one who had to sleep alone all night, for many, many nights." So that was so they really did. In terms of reading, they all were like, "You know what, finish this book," because I don't think they were confident I could ever finish the book. They're like, "Finish this book," because I wanted somebody to read it. Let me know what is, they won't read it, but it came out and they read it and it felt good and they were happy. So in terms of like support, just not being totally there for the 3.5 years, they understood. She's writing that book that we can't, she's always talking about, they just were so sick of me talking about the book.
But you got it out here.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes I would force, especially my middle son, I would force him to stay there and read it to him. I'm like, "No, you have to read it and tell me if you like it." It's like, "Okay, Mom, sure. I like it." So.
That's good that you have that support of your family. That's honestly, that's probably what makes the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's people who want to do things, but they can't because the people closest to them don't support them. But, luckily you have that familial support. And we're happy that they supported you. We're happy that the book is out here now.
Thank you.
So we know that your book is out. We know that there's another book, allegedly, that's what I heard, that there's another book coming out. Do you have some sort of editor or publisher behind you that's supporting you during this process?
Yeah, so one of the things I recommend, if you're because this Endless Chances was completely self-published. So if you are going to self-publish a book, I feel like you need a mentor. And I had a mentor. And my mentor basically encouraged me. She pushed me somewhat, especially at times when I was like, "You know what, I'm too busy, I don't have time." She set up a meeting every month and she gave me pretty much homework every month. We had goals, we had challenges sometimes, and she kind of would say, "You don't have to do it, but you know at the back of your mind that it is homework and it is due." So in terms of an editor, if you have a mentor will guide you to what editor to use. They'll guide you to which book cover, to which book cover company to use, what formatting company to use, because it's really kind of like you wrote the book, you have your manuscript, what do I do next? Right. So a mentor takes you through the path as to what you need to do. So that's very important, and the dedication, the inspiration, you have to be inspired. You can't stop. You have to keep going. Is the only way you can finish it, regardless of what challenges or what's going on in life. You gotta keep going, and you'll do it. It's like, if I did it, anybody can do it.
Of course. Mm-hmm. What advice would you have for someone who might be in similar shoes as you, or someone out there who says, but I can't write a book, I'm not a good writer, mm-hmm. I'm too old, I'm too young, I have nothing to say, but I really want to do. What would be the most important thing you would have to say to them?
The good thing about the whole author writing process is you have ghostwriters. You have people where you could just tell your idea and they will make it a book. The key thing to me, after you use a ghostwriter, is to go back and read it, edit it, and just work closely with them so that your vision, because they can't write the book, they can't see it like you can see it. Right. But if you go back and you walk very, very close to them, you can do it. Not everybody can write, or not everybody has the time. So that's why you have the ghostwriters. Of course, it's for a fee, but it's doable. It's doable if you really set your mind to it.
Of course. And last but not least, like you said, this book is supposed to be for everyone, anyone who wants to learn about the culture, whether they're in the culture or they're from Norway or Switzerland. Where is this book available? Where can they find this book? And where can they find more information about you?
Okay, so I have the book on Amazon, of course. The book is on Kobo. It's on Etsy. It's in Barnes and Nobles, and surprisingly doing good on Barnes and Noble. It's and I have it in the Nigerian bookstores. In Lagos, I have it on Quintessence. Quintessence is the Falomo shopping bookshop that we knew like as kids. I have it at Hazel Bookstore, Bookseller Bookstore, Lum Books. I have it in Book Nook, in Patabay. I have it in Booksellers. I have it in Leaders in Abuja. We have it in Bookville in Abuja as well, BBIP. So we're just generally trying to put it in the bookstores and trying to make it available. And I believe that once word gets out, more people would reach out and purchase the book and read the book, and I hope enjoy the book.
Have you considered doing an audiobook or a recording for some of us who love to listen but are not the best at reading?
So that is so interesting. So I have started. I started to read the book. And it's funny because when it gets to the sexual parts, with Ajoke, so it's like in this tiny little room, and it's me and this guy, this young guy. And when I'm reading the sexual parts, he'll take his his AirPods and he'll put it on. And sometimes I warn him, okay, the sexual parts are coming up, so he'll put it on, and I just laugh because I'm saying to myself, okay, you have to edit it, so I'm not sure why you're covering your ears. You're still gonna edit it. So he's editing. He's actually done editing, and I'm slowly listening to the still a lot of
Awkward
work to be done, but yes.
I'm sure people will love it. I would love it. I definitely love the idea of listening and reading along too. I love it. It's great.
So that's